Hey guys, so today we are going to talk about why babinga8 should be rated. So babinga8 is a level by a creator named Bakingi. Now, I think that Babingi is a great creator, and before I go into babinga8 the snow, I think I should go into his other levels first. So, I think Babinga 1 to 7 is a very interesting series of levels. They're all very psychedelic, they're all very kind of jokey, I guess, but none of them capture the same kind of unique atmosphere that Babinga 8 the snow kind of has, I guess. You know. So, without further ado, let's start looking at the level. So first off, when we go in, you see a black screen, and it slowly fades into the first part of the level. The first part consists of a pixel art foreground with these checkerboard or like flannel kind of textures, where it's like light blue, cyan kind of texture with a white, snowy kind of grass like cover on top of it. This is it's a really interesting foreground block design because it's very crude, but it has a certain punch to it. It has a certain impact to it. Like you look at this and you instantly recognize it as Babinga8 the snow. And it instantly sets the mood for a very frosty, glacial kind of level, I guess. The structures here are fairly blocky, which I think is fine. And, contrasting that, it's a genius contrast, by the way, in the background. There's this wonderful, psychedelic, kind of snowy background, but it's not just snow raining down from the sky above. No, it is so much more. It is this amazing kaleidoscopic background that's constantly rotating, made of the same pixels as the foreground, but in different rotations. So it's not exactly like vertical and horizontal. It keeps rotating in a circle, and that provides provides a contrast to like the grid-like nature of the foreground. Then you can see a bunch of slowly falling snow particles, but unlike what we've come to expect from snow particles, they are not white but instead a dark grey. I find this a very interesting subversion because usually we see these snow particles as something that's bright and cheery, like the snow on the foreground, but it's not. So it kind of sets the dark and eerie tone and atmosphere of the level to come. So yeah, let's continue. Yeah, now let's look at the spikes. If you see the spikes, they are it's these black crown hazards, and I think it's a good choice. Putting normal spikes there would just make the level feel weird in a sense. It wouldn't fit in with the very kind of blocky nature of this first part. We see spikes in the later parts, but that's because it fits later, because this level is a work of art, So let's continue. The gameplay here is pretty direct and straightforward, and before you know it, this first part is over. Now, I think it's important to state that this level is a medium level, and I understand that some mods have not sent it simply because it is a medium level. Now, I would beg to disagree with that, because I think that in this case it is an exception. Usually we do not send medium levels because medium levels, more often than not, are quite underdeveloped in concept. Now, I don't think that this level is underdeveloped in concept because it goes through a wide variety of parts in its mere 50 plus second runtime, And I think if it can do that, it demonstrates that it is not medium for a lack of trying. It is rather medium exception to the rule and should be rated despite it being a medium level. Its concepts are simply just very well developed in the time that it is given to develop, I guess. And once it has said what needs to be said, it does not go forth any further. So now, let's move to the second part. Okay, so next, we enter the ship part, the first ship part, around 20% of the level. So this is the part where I think the masterpiece nature of the level really shows. So first off, the foreground block design is this wonderful flashing square blocks. It kind of keeps with the blockiness of the first part, but the beauty of it is that the colors are phenomenal. It's like a really good use of complementary colors like purple and yellow, but at the same time the way these colors fade in and fade out is great. It's like it's not an immediate fade in and an immediate fade out, but they kind of intersect with each other. So when one fades in, another one's fading out, and like vice versa. So it creates a very like soft, pulsating look. And I think that's a really fantastic thing, It creates this really psychedelic feel to it, and I think that's just a wonderful look for the level. It cements the kind of dark, but really, really trippy nature of the level that we'll see in later parts. So, next, sorry, as for the background, it's these really interesting parallelograms that flash, they flash a variety of different colors, such as orange, purple, blue, and green, and just like the front, they kind of fade in and out slowly, so it's a very psychedelic experience. They're also very subtly moving. They are moving like diagonally upwards and rightwards, and that's it's a very interesting look, I guess. It creates a very kaleidoscopic kind of feeling to it, and perfectly complements the foreground. And it's just very sophisticated color usage, as we will see through the rest of the level. So as we continue, the ship gameplay is very esoteric. It's very idiosyncratic. It's like flying up and down, but it's not what you would typically expect from a ship section. It's a very brave and adventurous kind of ship section. Yeah, it feels open-ended as well. As you can see later, there are multiple paths through which you can choose to go, like the bottom or the top path. So I think that's a very interesting way to make a level. Open-ended levels are always great. I think something like Creep World, it's not on that level yet, but this level is also a lot older than Creep World. So yeah, it's kind of like a proto open-ended level in that sense. Let's continue. Then we reach the pixel art. So the pixel art here is a thing of beauty. It might not directly be linked to, the level, like the game Yumeniki, but I think that, the resemblance is strikingly similar. Sorry, I'm back. That was a bit of a disturbance, but, yes, I think that this level bears similarities to a lot of Yumeniki, that it's very dark, psychedelic, and I for one love that. I love that kind of vibe that goes on in this level. I wish more levels were like this. I know this level influenced Jacob's Pink Nightmares, which we will talk about later in greater detail, but yeah. So this can be seen as well in the pixel art. The pixel art's it's fantastic, it's surreal, it's goddamn great, it's really creative, the color usage is perfect. When you see it 33% surrounded by these diagonal pulsating blocks, it's this kind of a squat-legged man with a big schlong, like he's kind of just standing there with his hands out, like some kind of fucking weed mushrooms did I trip on or some shit, you know? Did I snort all the crack cocaine? So these are, it's kind of like the kind of ambiguity in the appearance and the form raises many questions, and that's what I love about this level. It elevates it to the point where it's just like art, because like real, like fantastic works of art, there's just room for so much interpretation. Okay, let's move on. So that's the first pixel art. The second pixel art is this. It's the same man at 38%, but part of the man is gone. It's kind of like a disintegrating look, So like like some of him is gone, but the essence of him remains. That's a very powerful statement. Like how much of us can we leave while still being recognizably us? What is our identity? Like this second guy at 38% is obviously same as the first guy from 33%, but most of him is gone. It's kind of like the Theseus ship kind of thing. If we take away from something, how much can we take away before it constitutes a different thing, Sorry, I've been disturbed again, but yeah, so the pixel art here serves a larger thematic purpose, I like that now. But yes, so that's the pixel art again. Let's continue. Oh, there we go. Here's the second kind of pixel art, these smiley face things, I like to call them banner goblins, because they kind of look like banners, but at the same time, they're kind of these goblin-like things, with these impish smiles, The character design here is great. It's kind of surreal. It's just, close enough to reality for us to, kind of infer what it is, but it's ambiguous enough that we don't really know what it is exactly, so there's room for interpretation. It's like, Rorschach's test, I guess. That's a really good way to put it, actually. Rorschach's test. Where, like the ink blots that you see on the paper, it kind of reminds us of real life things, but we can infer many different things, by looking at one specific ink blot. It's like looking at these creatures in babinga8, the Snow by Babingi. We can see that, like whatever we infer from the creatures is a lot about us as well. Okay, let's continue. At 46% there's the top and bottom path. And at 50%, yes, before we move into the next section, you see the full creature, the full big squatting gremlin man. Just before you change section, it's kind of like it's not Gesundheit, sorry, I don't know what the term is, but it's like where the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, So like you have, no, sorry, it's not, ignore that, it's more similar to something that you learn in music when it comes to variating motifs. It's called the cumulative form, where you show parts of the motif in the beginning and gradually reconstruct it until at the end you have the full thing. So this is kind of like that, where it's like, you have parts of the squatting gremlin man of a big schlong at the beginning of the part, and at the end of the level, you have a complete reconstruction of the man, So I think that's a very interesting thing to put in. It's kind of a thematic unifier for this part. And yeah, this part's great. It's one of the best parts in the level. It's just darkly surreal. I love it a lot, yeah. So we are just about halfway through the level. So there's a really short section here where there's these glorious, very surreal pixel arts. It's just like a kaleidoscope of colors. But I think the thing that I appreciate most about this part is that they are all, in these very muted color palettes. Like it's not overly bright, it's not overly flashy, it's just these, very, very, just kind of muted palettes, I guess, at first. It's these, how do I put it, yeah, it's like Technicolor, but like muted in a way. Then the screen flashes a blinding white that draws our attention before going back into, a second set of pixel art images that flash subtly and, stuff like that. The first set flashed subtly as well, and it's great. But this time it's more hues of flowers. Again, it's this kind of room for interpretation that I absolutely love in, Babinga 8, The Snow by Babinki. So, yeah, that's the pixel art part. And finally, we reached this final ship section. So I think this is a fitting way to end it off. It's a very mysterious kind of open section. There's a lot of glowy things, while the rest of the level is, more square and boxy. This part contains more rounded objects, more nuanced in shape. It's kind of a development from the previous sections. And I like it when, a level specifically has development like this. I think that's really fantastic to see coming from such an illustrious creator as Babinki. Sorry, Bakinki, my bad. How could I, insult the name of this wonderful creator? Anyways, so, you start off this part with a smattering of saws, in this part. It's a very open-ended bit. And, the first thing your eyes are drawn to is that big fucking thing in the background. Like, what is that thing? It's like a orange, like a purple circular crystal that has like several offshooting crystals in front of it. And it's again that ambiguity of interpretation. It's these abstract geometric shapes that work out so well in the favor of Babinga 8, The Snow. So let's continue as it moves on. Yeah, then as you move on to about 70%, you start to see the first of the structures. So as you can see here, the structures are very surreal, I would say. They are these squarish things, I guess, these squarish purple things. Yeah, they're like, I don't know what to say, they're just really intricately detailed. There's a lot of, it's kind of like wrapping around itself, and there's like a center glow in the middle, which I really like. Then there are other blocky structures, which to be honest I don't like as much, but to each their own. I think they're still well executed. And finally, the only other things of note in this part are the tiny moving pixel art things. These are gremlin looking ass things at the back. Let's view the video one more time. Yeah, so yeah, these gremlin looking things that kind of shake their head. I think the usage of frame by frame animation is great, and it's something that we need to do more in our levels. Like frame by frame animation is great. And then after that, like the screen fades to a purple glow, and then Babinga 8, comes up in handmade, like hand drawn handwriting, which is really appreciated. We stand levels that have fonts that are done in their own handwriting. I think that's really idiosyncratic and representative of the creator. It really imbues the level with the creator's identity. And yeah, it slowly fades to black, and I think some people might think this black ending is a little bit drawn out, a little bit superfluous, but I think it's the exact opposite. I think that it allows time for the viewer to reflect on what they've just seen, as the scene just draws to a close gradually. Doesn't end with a bang, but with a whimper, and I think that really helps it, I guess. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Babinga 8. There's no brief thoughts. I wish I had more time to do this, but unfortunately I ran out of